Hello, my name is David Oswald, and this is my presentation on trifles symbolism. Basically, my presentation is about my presentation is about my explanation of different objects that served us as the reader's evidence of Minnie's life. These are the symbols: the noose, dead canary, broken birdcage, one surviving jar of fruit, messy stitching, and quilts. The noose is an important symbol because it tells us how Minnie feels throughout her marriage with Mr. Wright. She feels the longer she keeps going on in the relationship, the more strangled that she becomes. Another point about the noose is that it represents the way she has always been about everything, which is patient, and that reflects on her method of the way she kills her husband. Strangulation is a very slow death because you have to wait until basically no oxygen reaches your brain, so you have to be very patient, I guess. So Minnie was waiting for him to die as she strangled him. This is also an act of revenge for all of the harm that her husband caused her. And it's also about how she feels about him, because he strangled her by always being around and making sure she does what he wants, basically. The noose is a heavy symbolic item in the entire story. Here's a couple quotes from the story. Someone slipped a rope around his neck and you didn't wake up. I think that this means that Minnie did do it, because if someone did creep into their house and kill her husband with a rope, then obviously she would wake up from that because it would be quite loud. But what this is also saying is that it's evident that Miss Wright is to blame for the death of her husband. My other quote about the noose is as follows: "No, I don't mean anything, but I don't think a place would be any cheerfuler for John Wright's being in it." I think this is Miss Hales is basically expressing her biased opinion on Minnie's crime. Now, the next symbol I'll be talking about is the dead canary, which I feel is very crucial in this play since it resembles Minnie in many ways, such as the canary's weakness. Also, just like the canary, Minnie was in a distinctive way strangled by Mr. Wright. The canary is also very frail, and because of that, Minnie is easily hurt by her husband. And when her husband strangles the canary, I feel that also he's strangling her. Here's a quote from a critical article, and it says, "Her isolation, the gloom of her surroundings, and her husband's dispassion slowly drove her to the brink of insanity." And I think because that they're out in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors, and the only people they have is each other, and the company she already has is not very pleasant, that it basically drives her insane and makes her kill her husband. The canary ends up dying and is strangled by her husband, and I think that to Minnie this means that she is feeling dead inside. Here's another quote from another critical article saying, "Minnie's lonely life evokes memories of the stillness of when Miss Peters' first baby died." Here, I think that because Minnie is out alone, she's basically alone, she's very depressed, and it's like when the canary dies, she loses her baby. And Miss Peters lost her baby, obviously, and that would cause a lot of depression. So I think that these two have like a lot of similarities in how the way they feel about depression. And here's the broken bird cage. The bird cage was broken into as the contents inside were ripped out like her heart. So it's like the bird cage is her rib cage and the bird is like her heart. And both were strangled by her husband. Both were ripped out. This also symbolizes Minnie's surroundings, as she could not be safe anymore, much like the bird being ripped from the cage. I think that what this is saying is that there's no more protection around Minnie because it's been violated by her husband. The protection, there's no more trust, much like the bird trusts the cage to protect the bird. But also the cage is keeping the bird in there, and maybe Minnie feels as if the house is keeping her there because it's isolated from everyone else. There's one surviving jar of fruit. The last jar of fruit to not have exploded has several symbolic meanings regarding Minnie's hope. The last jar shows that there is still hope for her, even though all the jars have exploded. Minnie has already lost everything, and what this is trying to say here is that even though Minnie's lost everything, there's still something that she has, and that's herself. So in many ways, Minnie is that last jar. Also, the glass is broken. Broken glass is sharp. Also, that also resembles her past, as it would hurt her to pick up, much like her memories. So if she were to pick up her memories and grasp on her memories, it would only cause her pain. Instead, she should just let them go and try to move on. For example, the fruit preserves show her patience with everything, including the murder. As Miss Peters said, "Oh, her fruit, it did freeze. She worried about that when it turned so cold. She said the fire'd go out and her jars would break." In this, I think that she's trying to explain that when her husband dies, it's like the fire going out and everything would just completely go. And this is the conflict I think Minnie has in killing her husband, is that yes, he caused her harm, but Minnie also wants to get rid of him. But then again, she's also alone out there. And even though she murdered her husband, I think that she still I think she still liked him, just because he was out there alone, or she was out there alone. And yeah. The messy stitching in the quilt, I think this symbolizes her trying to get her life together, basically. And the messy stitching is a visual of her mind trying to figure things out. So it's like all of her thoughts are jumbled up on a quilt, and she's trying to sort everything out so it can be uniform and organized. It also resembles the chaos that her husband has caused. So when they were fighting, she may have been stitching that quilt while they were fighting, or maybe afterwards, and that's a result of the messy stitching that was caused from that. Also, the stitching is sort of, it's not really attached to the rest, and it's extremely I want to say, like, well, it's just disorganized, and that's how our thoughts are. So, here is my works cited page, and that was my presentation on symbolism with trifles.